And as you would expect from people who do so much for charity, they're very lovely to their friends as well. And when I was supposed to be attending the Latitude Festival, they said, "Oh, we've got a guest house really near the festival site. Would you like to stay there instead of being in a tent?" To which I replied, "Yes, the fuck. That would be awesome." And so we drove, they gave us the directions, we started driving there. We were driving up and down the road, we just couldn't find this guest house, couldn't find the guest house. Where's the guest house? Can't find the guest house. And then realised it's because we've driven past a massive fucking castle 5 times, and that is the guest house. Because he wrote 4 weddings and a funeral. And so it's been a long drive, and so when we pull up in the drive, so I get there and I run into the house, and I'm desperate to use the toilet as fast as I can into the toilet. So I run in through the front door and see it's a very white building. It's a very white. White floors, white walls, white furniture, everything's very white. And run into the toilet, and at the time I was using a form of sanitary protection called a moon cup. And judging from that moan, quite a lot of people have used moon cups. Okay, one person thinks they're great. Who would say that they're shit? Okay, I'd like to think they were maybe in the same tank as men. Like, I refuse to believe that. Okay, first we should explain what they are to those who don't know. So men, this is what a moon cup is. Okay? You 56 men, stop thinking about your clutch. This is what a moon cup is. A moon cup is a kind of rubbery egg cup that you put inside yourself to catch the monthly ghastliness, and then you empty it out and you can reuse it. And it, in theory, is the most green and eco-friendly way of coping with your monthly awfulness. But in practice, it turns out to be quite unreliable, and I'm still in denial as to the reasons why that might be. I refuse to believe that it is because, obviously, my pelvic floor is shot to shit, and just hold it in. And that instead it's just because I'm a very jolly person and I laugh a lot. And just it's a very happy me. That's what's wrong for me. So I was still in the deluded phase of using the moon cup at this point, and so I went to the toilet and had a tinkle, and then emptied out the moon cup, put the moon cup back in, and then ran back into the front room to help my husband unpack. And my husband ran into the toilet because he needed to go too. And as he walked into the room, I could hear him scream, "What the fuck have you done in here?" And I walked into the bathroom, and it was like a scene from Carrie. All of the walls, all over the floor, all over the bath, all over the taps, towels, everything. The beautiful white bathroom was white no more. So, panicking, I started trying to scrub it off the walls using flannel and some toiletries. And the thing is, it's that really expensive Farrow ball emulsion, so that shit comes off easy. So I'm now basically scrubbing through to the foundations of the walls. And halfway through doing this, I hear a scream from my husband in the front room going, "Oh, what the fuck have you done in here?" And as I walk into the front room, all I can see is a trail of bloody footprints. At which point my phone goes, and it's Freud and Richard Curtis saying, "We're just going to pop over and welcome you to the guest class." So I run outside. "No need for you to go in that room, no need for you to go into the room. I've thrown my clothes all over the floor to cover up all the blood. Let's just stand out here and have a cigarette and enjoy nature." And started to have a conversation with them. And the conversation that I wanted to have with them is about who had stayed previously at the guest house. And what I was really angling for was that the previous tenants who'd been there was either Pete Doherty or Tracy Evans. Someone really scutty, someone basically borderline tramp. So I asked this question, there was a pause, and then Emma said, "Well, it's funny really, we've only ever had one guest in that guest house before, and it was Gordon Brown." At that point I realised I probably wouldn't be able to blame it on him. It was mainly because of the sex that was in there, because before the book came along, there'd been a big conversation in feminist circles about how we needed to talk more about female sexuality, that most pornography is mediated through the male gaze. You're not really seeing what women want and the kind of thing that women fantasise about. And for this, for reference, when you leave here, if you want to go and Google Nancy Friday's My Secret Garden, which is a book of masturbatory fantasies that she's compiled for people that she's interviewed, there's some fucking weird and amazing shit in there. And none of it has anything to do with vampires. It's all amazing. But so we wanted to see more about female sexuality and how weird, creative and imaginative it is. And then when 50 Shades of Grey came along, it's a book written by a woman, and 1 in 3 women in this country have bought a copy of it. So it's like, wow, we've really started the conversation about female sexuality. This is amazing. And then I read the book and went, that was not the conversation about female sexuality I wanted us to have. You know, obviously, you know, everybody has their different tastes, and maybe there are some people who like this, but I have an essential problem with the idea of a book about a female protagonist who's young, innocent, and not into S&M, who meets a much older, richer, and more powerful and fucked up man, and who, essentially, and sorry about the spoilers, in exchange for having her clitoris repeatedly beaten with a hairbrush, gets an iPad and a go on a helicopter. And that's 3 books. So inspired partly by anger and partly by wanting her fucking money, I was like, I'm going to write a dirty book. I want to write a dirty book. I want to write a book about a girl being in control of her sexuality. You know, who kind of like goes out there and, I mean, for want of a better word, I wanted to kind of reclaim the word slag. But I realised that that might take a long time, so I invented 2 new words, which were 1, lady sex pirate, and 2, swashbuckler. Because on the one hand, yes, you know, as a girl, you know, you do have to be careful, you know, kind of, you know, have respect for yourself, you know, be careful when you go out and have sex and stuff. And also, you know, if you're somebody who doesn't want to go out and fuck around, this pressure to kind of go out there and fuck around, you can absolutely ignore that. No one's going to be telling you to do anything. But on the other hand, if you do feel that you want to spend a couple of years just kind of like, and going out and having these experiences, then, you know, that's something you should feel okay about. You know, as long as you understand that most of the sex you'll have if you are swashbuckling around be quite bad. But that's okay, because life generally breaks into 2 categories. 1, things that are absolutely amazing and awesome, and 2, things which are absolutely terrible at the time, but which will later make amazing anecdotes. And you will notice during your swashbuckling years, it's usually 2. And that's okay, then you're going to be something to talk about. And so, the character Johanna in the book goes through her swashbuckling someone who can. And so I went, I will be Courtney Love, and I opened that door and I went, and that worked well. But that was the first time I understood the whole principle of the idea of the brilliant drag queen phrase of fake it till you make it. That if you can't do that thing today, whatever it is that you feel you can't do, just pretend to be someone who can. And it's often as simple as that. And that's the brilliant positive way that it can work, that the difference between actually being something and pretending to be something is utterly negligible. No one will know that you're not that. You just pretend to be it. It's exactly the same thing. It is like magic. It is a transformatory spell. But it can also work negatively as well. Most notably in the case of ironic sexism, or ironic homophobia, or ironic racism. The most pernicious example of this in the last couple of years has been the Oscars opening ceremony 2 years ago. And the Oscar opening ceremony was a huge musical number called We've Seen Your Boobies. And it went into a huge close-up of all the brilliant female actresses that were in the audience, these brilliant women who can carry massive movies, who are astonishing actresses who make us cry and laugh and love. And it would zoom into a close-up of them, and then it would show on the big screen the scene that they'd been in. In the song, it would describe the scenes that they'd been in where they'd been naked, and we can see their breasts. It's a horrible, humiliating thing to do to these, you know, powerful women on their big day out. And the other thing that the song completely overlooked is when they were mentioning the scenes in the films that these women had had their breasts naked. In a third of those scenes, they were scenes where they were being assaulted or raped. So it was the least appropriate fucking thing you could ever do, and there was very necessarily and rightly a massive furore afterwards. So people going, what the fuck are you doing? That was a massive dick move. And the people who wrote that song, the people who delivered that song said, yeah, but it was ironic sexism. We're acknowledging that there is sexism, and so we did a song to puncture that sexism. And so, you know, we were just acknowledging the elephant in the room. And it's like, no, dude, you brought the elephant into the room. That's the whole thing about being ironically sexist. Because the difference about, you know, the thing about ironic sexism, ironic racism, ironic homophobia, is it makes the person it's aimed at feel exactly the same as real sexism, homophobia, or racism. You still feel squirming and embarrassed and bit. And that's the key thing about, you know, faking to make it in a bad way, that there is no difference, really, in pretending to be a cunt and actually being a cunt. That is... If you've ever had anyone ironically going backs against the wall, lads, when they're around someone who's gay, it's exactly the same as saying it and meaning it, because the thing is that only a cunt would want to pretend to be a cunt. It's... Of all the millions of jobs that need doing in the world, you know, I've done that stock take. We have plenty of cunts. We are so well stocked with bellends and asshats and dicks. We have if half of them die, there's still another army of them will sweep over us. We don't need to be pretending to be them. That's absolutely fine. You know what you'll find there. So that was realising fake it till you make it was a massive key part of, sort of like transforming my teenage years and realising that in a day you can decide that you're going to be someone different. And a couple of years later, I was a journalist and I finally got to interview my hero, Courtney Love. And I went out to America to interview her, and I met her and her whole band, And Eric from the band Hole at the time had curtains, as was the fashion, because it was the early 90s. And so he looked a bit like a girl. And we went to a cafe, and there was a redneck guy there who, as soon as he saw Eric's long hair, just started shouting, "Faggot, you fucking faggot." But the thing was that the redneck was wearing a Queen t-shirt, and so he enjoyed telling a thing or two about Freddie Mercury's life. And then me and Courtney went back to the hotel alone, and we spent 10 hours just talking to each other. It was just brilliant. Everything you would ever dream about meeting your hero, just kind of a complete kind of just chatting, smoking and chatting, a lot of smoking. People smoked a lot in those days. Anyone who smokes now has no idea how much more we used to smoke then. You could smoke on buses, you could smoke in the hospital, you could smoke giving birth. Those are not even exaggerated examples, that's literally what people did. You just say goodnight to your kids. Good night. And so as a consequence of the enormous early 90s smoking that we were doing, we finally ran out of cigarettes at about 4 o'clock in the morning, and Courtney picked up the phone and rang down to reception and said, we've run out of cigarettes in room 309, can you send some up? And then she looked sad and put the phone down and went, "Oh, they've run out of cigarettes downstairs, we have no more cigarettes, what are we going to do?" Yeah. And I was like, "I will take care of this, hang on," picked up the phone and went, "Hello, yes, it's Caitlin Moran for the Times here. Yes, Caitlin Moran for the Times. I'm interviewing Courtney Love for the Times. We will need some more cigarettes up here, please. If you could send someone to a 7-Eleven, I will tip them handsomely, $50. But we do need some cigarettes. That'd be lovely. Thank you very much. Goodbye." Put the phone down, and 10 minutes later, cigarettes came. And for the first 10 minutes, we were so happy to smoke we could not say a word. We just jabbing the middle. Because it had been almost 20 minutes without a cigarette. And when we finally stopped smoking our fag harmonica of intense Marble Lights, Courtney just went, "God, how could you do that? How would you have the confidence to just, insist on having some cigarettes?" And I said, "Well, dude, because I've just spent the last 10 years pretending to be you." And that was the point where I just sat there going, "So who have you been pretending to be then?" And then that's what you realise about the lovely thing about your heroes, it's the brilliant and endless creative act, the things that we pretend to be can be inspiring to other people, and it makes you realise what a brilliant game we're all embarking on now. How you talk to someone and how you act around someone can change their life, and so that's why you must always make sure you are genuinely trying to be a pleasant person and not, as Rule 2 of Feminism states, a dick. So then, after 30 years of faking it till I make it, I went full circle with how I feel about my body and how I feel about my confidence. Because when I wrote How to Be a Woman, there was another big meeting, the second big meeting of my life, at a publishing company, and they said, "We're going to publish this book, but we've just been, come, we need to talk about how it's going to look and how we're going to market it, come to the meeting." So obviously now I'd spent 20 years being Courtney Love with the voice of Lorraine Kelly in my head. I wanted to that meeting, totally prepared for everything that was going to happen, feeling very confident. And they started to say, "Okay, we've got some ideas for the cover, so we could do this, we could do that." And I said, "Let me stop you right there, guys. I know exactly how the cover of this book's going to look. I've invented a thing called your feminist smile." And some people got scared. And I said, "Let me show you my feminist smile. It is this. What we're going to do is I'm going to draw eyes on my tits, like this. One here and one here. And then I'm going to draw a nose here. And then I'm going to manipulate my belly fat and draw a huge smile." Thank you, Birmingham. And that will be the cover of the book. And then I stood there and did that, and did that in quite a business-like way. And they stared at me for a minute, and then they went, "Oh, it could be a picture of your face."
You signed everything.